Welcome to stage 18, neuter nouns. Okay, so you know that all nouns in Latin have a gender, and there are three genders, right? Feminine, masculine, and now this new thing called neuter. Please, it's neuter. Don't call it neutral. It'll make me mad. Okay, here's a quick review. I know you guys learned this last year. The first declension, that first declension noun family, almost all of them are feminine. There are four major exceptions: poeta, agricola, incola, and nauta. Those four are actually first declension masculine nouns, but 99% are feminine. Second declension nouns can be masculine or neuter. The ones that end in us in the nominative are masculine. The ones that end in in the nominative are neuter. And think about rooms of the house. You learn quite a lot of those in stage 1. Those were actually neuter nouns. Now, third declension, how do you know the gender? You just have to memorize it. There's no way to know without just memorizing it. The third declension has masculine nouns, it has feminine nouns, and it has neuter nouns. Okay, so what's the deal with neuter nouns? Well, neuter nouns look weird only in two places, and that would be the nominative case and the accusative case. In the genitive, dative, and ablative, they look identical to nouns in the same declension. All right? So, more specifically, for neuter nouns, the nominative singular and the accusative singular will always look exactly the same. And the nominative plural and the accusative plural will always look exactly the same. Since there are no neuter nouns in the first declension, let's take a look at a second declension neuter noun example and then follow that up with a third declension neuter noun example. So second declension, I picked templum because that's a noun that we've seen quite a bit, meaning temple. Ignore the bold-faced nominative and accusatives for a minute, and let's take a look at the genitive, dative, and ablative. As you can see, genitive, singular, the ending is I, and then plural is O-R-U-M. Well, second declension nouns, let's see. If I sing my genitive song, A-E-I-I-S, it's the genitive. Aurum, aurum, is plural, it's possessive. Same with dative. A-E-O-I, yeah, that's a dative. Is-ibus, tells 2 or 4. And ablative, the last case is the ablative, is-ibus. So genitive, dative, and ablative neuter nouns, singular and plural, the endings are identical to second declension masculine nouns. The only difference would be in the nominative and the accusative. And as I mentioned earlier, the nominative singular, whatever it is, will be identical to the accusative singular. Templum, templum. Now here's the new information. The nominative plural, which is identical to the accusative plural, is templa. Templa. Now let's look at a third declension example. Nomen, meaning name. So same deal with the genitive, dative, and ablative, right? A-E-I-I-S. It's the genitive. Aurum, is plural, right? And then dative, A-E-O-I. Yes, that's the dative. Isis ibus. Last case is the ablative, A-O-E. Isis ibus. So third declension neuter nouns in the genitive, dative, and ablative look identical to third declension masculine and feminine nouns in the genitive, dative, and ablative. They only differ in the nominative and the accusative. Well, here's the nominative singular, and whatever it is, however it's spelled, that's identical to the accusative singular. And the plural, here's some new information. The nominative plural is nomina, and the accusative plural is nomina. Did you notice a pattern between the plural, nominative, and accusative of templa and nomina? Why they both end in A? Whoa, each and every day neuter plurals end in A. Which, of course, that doesn't mean that neuter plurals in every case end in A. It just means that in the nominative and accusative, which is that's the only place where they're weird, they end in A. So just remember that little rhyme. Each and every day, neuter plurals end in A. And if you forget that, I'm just going to look at you in class and just say, each and every day. And I expect you to say, neuter plurals end in A. Okay. Now, let's take a look at some neuter nouns that you've actually seen fairly recently in the Blue Book, just to point out that you've actually seen quite a lot. Horreum, which means granary. Donum is gift. Saxum is rock. Auxilium is help. Consilium is advice or plan. Praesidium is protection. Plaustrum is wagon. And then, going all the way back to the Red Book, you saw some second declension neuter nouns as well. A lot of rooms in the house, plus some of these down here at the bottom. Now, third declension neuter nouns, there weren't really any in the Red Book, but you have seen some in the Blue Book so far, as in mare, meaning ocean or sea, agmen, meaning a column of people or procession, litus, meaning shore, caput, meaning head, that's a stage 18 word, and even though you haven't learned it officially, you have seen animal used, which means, wait for it, animal. So you've actually seen quite a number of neuter nouns, even if you didn't know at the time that they were neuter. Now, how would these look in a sentence? So let's take a look. Salvius horrea nova inspexit. Well, Salvius is my subject, so Salvius inspected the nova horrea each and every day. Neuter plurals end in a. If you're ever puzzled by why a word in the middle of a sentence ends in a, and there's no long mark over the a, and you're thinking, hey, isn't this supposed to be a first declension, feminine, singular, nominative noun? But that can't be because I already have a nominative. If you're ever thinking that, it's got to be a neuter plural accusative. And sure enough, it is here. Salvius inspected the new granaries. Gogi Bear, he duxited a pom-pom to the litus. Well, that means he led a procession ad litus, to the shore. Now, litus is a neuter noun that means shore, and litus is what it looks like in the nominative. Therefore, it is also spelled litus in the accusative. Principes dona ad aulam tulerunt. The chiefs carried gifts to the palace. Dona is plural there. And then schisne nomen senes. Do you know the name? Accusative looks the same as nominative. Do you know the name of the old man? As you can see, I'm focusing on accusatives and nominatives here simply because that's just where it puts most people into a state of confusion, since the genitive, dative, and ablative are identical to normal second declension and third declension nouns. There's not much point in showing you examples with those. Here are a few more. Animalia, hospites teruerunt. Now here, animalia, subject of the sentence. The animals terrified the guests. And then these last two sentences both use the word plaustrum, but in two different ways. Plaustrum viam claudebat. The wagon was blocking the street. But then in this, and wagon is obviously the nominative subject here. But in this last sentence, varica plaustrum emovit. Varica moved the wagon. The wagon is being used as the accusative direct object. So if you just saw plaustrum in a sentence, how would you know if it's nominative subject versus accusative direct object? Well, number one, word placement in the sentence. You know that the nominative usually comes first and accusative is usually in the middle. And number two, just the context of the sentence in general will always help. So there you go. Neuter nouns look different in the nominative and accusative cases only. They look identical in the nominative and the accusative cases. So, for example, plaustrum versus plaustrum. And the nominative and accusative plurals end in the letter A. Each and every day, neuter plurals end in A. And that's about it for neuters. It's a total eclipse of the heart.